Hello again. I have on this channel in the past fallen foul of YouTube for suggesting that there may be inherent differences between various ethnic groups. I'm glad to say that I am today suggesting nothing of the kind. Indeed, I'm delighted to assure everybody that there is one important field in which all ethnicities are absolutely equal, and there is nothing at all to choose between black people and white, Chinese and Indians, Europeans and Americans. That is, that they are all as likely to be as greedy and self-serving frauds as each other. One act of patronising racism, which I have observed white liberals and left-wing do-gooders to be especially prone to, is assuming that black people and Indians are likely to be more honest, kind and good-hearted than white folk. It really isn't true. This is a leftover of Rousseau's idea of the noble savage who has not been corrupted by Western civilization. It is for this reason that European governments hand over vast sums of money in aid, in inverted commas, to African and Asian countries, and then seem surprised when it is either spent on guns or luxury cars, while the rest is squirreled away in Swiss bank accounts of dictators or senior army officers. This, I'm afraid, is human nature. White people really do not have a monopoly on being crooked and keen on stealing money meant for good causes. One of the two people who founded the Black Lives Matter movement, Patrisse Cullors, is the latest person to show that a desire for a lifestyle reminiscent of a Hollywood movie star is not limited to vain, selfish white people. Cullors is of course an avowed Marxist who is dedicated to the destruction of the capitalist system. Since the hashtag Black Lives Matter first appeared in 2013, Patrisse Cullors has become the public face of what has turned into a very big business. She's the leader of the Black Lives Matter Global Foundation. It has come to light in recent days, though, that she owns no fewer than 4 homes, the latest one being in a smart part of California. Since the George Floyd business last year, the BLM Global Foundation has raked in over £60 million, so it's doing very well financially. The accounts show that Cullors has been paid just $120,000 over the last 5 years or so, which amounts to a very modest salary of around £16,000 sterling a year. Of course, anybody who's worked for a charity or a not-for-profit organisation knows that the amount paid out in that way bears no relation to any actual benefits. I could list a dozen ways that money flows out of such organisation to the advantage of trustees and employees without it being visible to anybody other than a forensic accountant. I'm not suggesting that it's happened in that case, of course, because there are many other ways that Cullors might have acquired her money. It's been pointed out, for example, that she writes books and has been offered a TV deal. But of course, she's only got these money-making opportunities because she is the public face of Black Lives Matter. They are benefits which she has gained from the movement. Anyway, she's now resigned from leading Black Lives Matter, the Global Foundation, and she talks about right-wing attempts to discredit her. She has not confirmed how many houses she has bought in the last few years, though, and so the details remain obscure. What I find fascinating particularly is the reaction of social media platforms and newspapers to the news of Patrisse Cullors' activities in the real estate business. Everybody seems very keen to play it down and try and suppress the information spreading too freely. Speaking for myself, I find all this amusing because she's always claimed to be a Marxist. It has nothing at all to do with her ethnicity, but many people feel that any criticism of her must be due to racism. Writing in the British newspaper The Independent, a black journalist asked why a black woman should not own a luxury property in a swanky part of California. The headline of this newspaper article, to which I provide a link in the description to this video, is "Why exactly do you think that BLM founder Patrisse Cullors shouldn't live in a $1 million house?" No reason at all. I assume that most of the people living around there are probably greedy show-offs, and that applies to Patrice colours too. Nothing at all to do with the colour of her skin. The author of the piece, Christopher Ensaya Buardi, strikes me as more than a little conflicted, rather like Gollum in The Lord of the Rings. She says that at first, I'll be honest, discovering Colours could afford to buy a nice house in an affluent part of Los Angeles gave me pause too. But she then goes on to say, but after that pause, I immediately called myself out because I realised that the pause itself was connected to how I'd been conditioned to view the black struggle. I love the idea of somebody calling themselves out. Do you suppose she actually spoke out loud like Gollum during this process? Nasty Patrice Colours. She's a race traitor. We hate her. No, nice Patrice. She's our friend, precious. Patrice cares about poor black people. We likes her. It's a fascinating vision. Facebook, by the way, has forbidden anybody to share the story about Patrice Colours' property empire on the grounds of privacy. I rather assume that some hotshot lawyers have been threatening injunctions and legal proceedings. Twitter has suspended the accounts of journalists who talk about it as well. We must hope that YouTube are not as strict on the subject. All ethnicities have about the same proportion of people who have an alarming tendency to stick to money which has been earmarked for worthy purposes. I honestly do not see why we should be surprised to see black or Indian people showing this rather than when it is done, for example, by white bankers on Wall Street. I'm afraid this particular aspect of human nature is absolutely cross-cultural.